This is Big Business with Sarah. This podcast guides you to finding what you desire most in life and business, because running a business is very much about your personal development. In this podcast, I'm sharing what my clients ask me and how I help them. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for listening to episode 50 of Big Business with Sarah. I'm so happy that you're still here. I mean, maybe you have already followed me in episode 1 and you're still here. Thank you so much. And you will notice that there is a new format that I have created about 10 episodes ago. I was thinking, what do my clients like? What do my listeners really like? And I thought about it. And my conclusion was that people really like my coaching. So I thought I should add my coaching into my podcast so that it's very, very clear for you what I'm doing. And, if, possibly I could help you with something, then this is a great introduction. So that was really the reason. Another reason is that I wanted to change the format of my newsletters, and because they were more of announcing my podcast. But I wanted them more to be kind of like mini trainings. So, those two reasons really got me into this new format. So very, very quickly, we're starting with a question coming from my clients. So typically my mastermind clients, my private clients, people who work with me in a 3-week intensive, 1-week intensive, actually it really doesn't matter, but I'm picking those questions when I think, I think more people struggle with this or want to know more about this. So that's why I picked them. And then the second part is a question from you. And the question from you is something that you can submit through bureausbb.com/podcast. And there you can submit your question for about 90 seconds, and all the instructions are there on the website. You can find it below in the show notes. And then the third part of the podcast is typically a question for you. So these could be journaling exercises, things that you can do this week, all those little things that I love to indulge my clients with, but I also want to indulge you with it because you're such a nice and a sincere listener and always give me a lot of nice feedback. So thank you for that. And do continue. I'm very curious, of course, what you think of the new format. So we're going to start with the first question coming from my client. So this was a question which was asked in a mastermind. And she asked me, I know what I have to do for my business, but why aren't I doing it? How do I discover what keeps me from doing the thing? And how do I make sure I'm staying motivated on the long run and it gets to be easier? And I was thinking about this question, because it's the first week of January. Happy New Year, by the way. I think I can still say it. But it's a very difficult question to answer because it's about motivation. And motivation is something, when I was 16 till 20, I followed a sports education, on becoming a sports teacher, trainer. I wanted to become a gymnastics coach. I kind of skipped on that dream, and I'm very glad I did, actually, because of all the affairs that are happening in the gymnastics world right now. I would love to actually be a part of the solution, but I haven't got the time to it yet. But anyway, I wanted to become a gymnastics trainer, high level, Olympic level trainer. And, in order to be the best trainer you can, you have to learn a lot about behavior. So we learned about behavioral psychology. And one of the things that always stuck with me was, 2 terms, intrinsic motivation. So the motivation inside of you and external motivation. So things, or we call it in Dutch, extrinsic motivation, but I think it's external. So motivation that's coming from outside of your world. So for instance, your family, your friends, teachers, your sector, people that you work with, they encourage you. This podcast is also an external motivator. My mastermind, all those things. So I think those are 2 important things to realize, that there is internal and external motivation. So I gave her 5 possible solutions that you can do to stay motivated more, without having to always find the external reasons first. Because of course, I believe in the internal motivation, but sometimes you just need a little push. So what we first talked about was, I believe, what can really help you motivate you in the short term is sell before you create. So, for instance, if you are thinking of creating a new program, if you're thinking of, offering a new service, if you're thinking of creating a podcast, if you're thinking of creating videos on LinkedIn, I don't know what you want, but I want you to kind of think about in the mindset of sell before you create. So first discover if people want to pay for it. Of course, not for your LinkedIn content, but let's say it's a book. Let's say you want to write a book, or you want to create a method, and that you are actually going to sell your method or your book. Maybe it's a book with your method. Sell it before you are creating it. Because, you always have, for instance, if you want to write a book, you always have kind of an idea what you want to talk about, but you haven't written it yet, right? So I also have this idea of my book. It's going to be about the foundation of Your Summer Reset, which was my private podcast last summer. And all the people who applied then will get the book for free. I'm just not really sure yet when I'm going to write it, when I'm going to find the time for it, because there's so many exciting things happening this year. But I know that I have to sell that book first before I'm going to create it. So think about that. And, once people bought, one of my other clients in the mastermind, she has created 2 video courses. And she has done that because she sold them. And, she's always being, I have to create new modules. I have to create this and that, because she's motivated because someone has paid for it, because else you wouldn't actually really have the time to create it. So that's, something I'm telling my clients the whole time. And, this is an idea coming from the startup world, create an MVP, a minimum viable product, sell that for a minimum price, and then you can build from there. Something that I also really like and that I also want to create something for, but it's just the beginning of the year and my brain isn't working to its full extent yet. But something I'm thinking about the whole time is smart stacking. So I also want you to kind of stack smart, in a smart way, so that you're always kind of building from what you've already built before, instead of starting over yet again. So that's a mindset course that I want to create, or a training. I'm not really sure yet what it's going to be. Maybe a podcast episode. I'm not really sure, but I really strongly believe in that smart stacking, because it's something that I'm doing in my business right now, and it's working really great. And I want to help you too do that. So be smart about what you spend your time on. That's, of course, one of the best tips I can give you, and it's really an open door. But you know what? I had to use it. So we talked about short term. Now I want to talk to you about long term. So if you're listening to my 2 episodes ago, episode 48, I'm talking about goal setting. And the goal setting, I can give you a short summary, but I would really suggest you listen to it. The episode is really about, and it's also one of my first chapters of the last module, the productivity module, because I don't really believe in all those productivity hacks. I just really believe in having a very strong focus on your goals. So the goal is to write your goals for the upcoming 3 years, and then 2 years and 1 year. Then break it down to, for this year, 4 quarters, and then maybe you can also already write down your month goals, and then you can create week goals. And you don't have to do it immediately now, but you don't have to write down all your week goals, those 52 weeks goals right now, but I would suggest you'd write down your 3-year, 2-year, 1-year goal, and the 4 quarters of this upcoming year goal. Um, you know, because one of those things that I thought about when she asked me the question is, yeah, but do you really want this? Do you really want to make that, because we did a sales strategy workshop, do you really want to make those sales? Yes, it would be nice, but are you willing to put in the work? And I strongly believe, and then we're going back to those behavioral sciences that we spoke about earlier this episode, is if you really want something, then you're going to do everything you can to reach it. And I strongly believe in that. Also, from a personal experience, actually, because I've always, wanted to change, the life that I was coming from. And I had a very strong desire to do that. And maybe you do too. I'm not really sure. I know that people are listening, even from Australia. I'm not sure where you are, but, actually I want to say that I see you. And also if you're sending me messages and if it's in some way helping you to motivate you, but you can actually get out of your current situation. So this could be, living with your parents. This could be being financially dependent on your partner. This could be being stuck in a job that you really don't like. But there has to be something. And, this is also, I'm not saying that I invented this idea, but this is also something that Tony Robbins really believes in. He calls it, having a breakthrough, really desiring something. And I completely agree with him actually on that. I said you really have to want something. So be honest to yourself about that. That's what my message is for you. So all my courses and every training and all my episodes really start about what you want, because I know that many coaches are saying, yeah, you have to think about your ideal client and find, your USP and, what makes you stand out. But actually, if you're very, very honest, you shouldn't really care too much about what your client wants. It starts with you first. You are the one who is going to help your client, and you're actually helping your client by figuring out what you want first. So, what is the desire you really want in your life? Create clarity about that. And I think also clarity is a very important word for the upcoming year, for everyone. Being very clear on what you want. What do you want to fight for? What do you want to change? What do you want to embody? And I think that's a big motivational tool, because if you know exactly where you're going to, then it's going to be very, very easy for you to navigate there. And for instance, that's also why we are in the Big Business, Big Life workshop, which is end of January. Why we're always creating a vision board. But that's not all. We're being very, very specific there and how to reach that. So if you've already created your vision board, is it actually challenging enough? Is it worth fighting for you? If there's something you really, really want, and maybe you're thinking, oh, this really sounds like me. Like I only should think about me. Yes, it does. It does actually start with you. Because if you are happy, if you are satisfied, if you are, going for it, you're going to inspire others. You don't have to think, always about others first. You start with you first. And then from that position, it's much easier for you to help others. I've been a volunteer since I'm 12 years old. And I've seen so many people care so much for others, but not so much for themselves. And then they would burn out, and then they would be frustrated, and then it wouldn't be very inspiring to work with them anymore. So this is really, really, really important for you. So it's not. I don't think it's very egoistic to think this way. So another free research source that I want to give to you is my sales plan workshop, which is ungated actually from this year on. I'm very much going to experiment with ungated content. This is all coming from the idea of demand generation and instead of lead generation. And I'm going to be more free about this. So you can actually, you don't have to download it. You can just find it on YouTube. I will also put the link of that in the show notes. And you can create your sales strategy for free and for this year. And so that will also help you create clarity. So for instance, if you want to have If you want to, for instance, stay at the Ritz Hotel in London for Christmas this year actually, for Christmas this year, for December. Now, well, I think, if you want to have a nice room, maybe stay 3 nights, you might want to think about spending 5,000, 6,000 euros, something like that, or pounds. So how do you get that? How many programs do you have to sell to actually reach that goal? And that's such a nice way of looking at things. And it's much nicer if you have a scalable income, a scalable offer actually, because then you can sell, as much as you want. But you can also do this as a freelancer and really make exceptions for yourself. So a third part that I asked her in the Voxer, because she asked this in the Voxer, and Voxer is a walkie-talkie app where we are talking back and forth, answering questions, getting back to those and then coming back again and asking another question or asking some clarification. I asked her for the third part, I asked her, what are 10 things, make a list of 10 things in your business that you really don't like doing. And can you eliminate those? Because sometimes you're doing things, and I'm also guilty of that. Sometimes you're doing things which you really don't have to do actually. Or can you delegate those? So can you maybe hire a team member, maybe hire a virtual assistant, maybe you can have someone help you as an assistant. Maybe full-time, maybe part-time, doesn't really matter, but try to go into CEO mode here and take responsibility. So for instance, for me, I have noticed throughout the years, and I'm working, I am building a career from 14 years on now, and one thing I really don't like is meetings, live meetings. So, going someplace, cycling half an hour there, going there, sitting there for 1 hour. And, I think it should always have a goal, every meeting, but it happened many times that it didn't. And I thought, that was really a big energy sucker for me. So I eliminated it completely in my online business right now. So I don't have any live meetings anymore. And maybe you're thinking, that's strange. Why doesn't she want to meet people? Well, that's just something that I don't like. And I've been very honest about that to myself. And now I'm happy actually running my business. So the fourth thing that I want to share with you, and I know that many business coaches are saying that, is that you might have a fear of failure or a fear of success. And actually, I just wanted to mention it because I know it exists. But I don't really believe that that's the problem. I really believe that the root of the problem is that big goal, is understanding what you want to do. So going back to the second part, of the long-term goal. In the process, be nice to yourself, obviously. And also sometimes things take time. And I believe what Oprah says about this is that there are no failures. Those were just signs to change course and to change your path. So for instance, I almost wanted to quit my business in April last year, but that was short-term Sarah, STS. I mentioned her in the last episode as well. But you have to be in it for the long game. Play the long game, write down your long-term goals, and then that fear of failure or fear of success will disappear because you know the higher message here that you want to reach. And that's the funny thing about my mastermind and about, my coachees who are in the mastermind is, in the Voxer, it's not just you and me, it's you, me, and the other coachees. And one of the other coachees reminded me of something that I'm always preaching and that you can listen to in episode 47, sorry. And she reminded me of doing gratitude exercises. So be grateful for what you have now. Find the motivation in what you have right now. For instance, that you can run your business on your own terms, that you are actually able to create stuff, that people are going to buy it. Isn't that amazing? I am doing gratitude exercises since May. And, I just spoke to you, told you that I wanted to quit my business in April, and in May it completely changed actually. So write this down for yourself daily, what you're grateful for. And another thing that you can do is look at your numbers each month and, look how you're doing. This doesn't have to be, clients per se. It can also be followers, interactions, DMs, nice reviews that you've received, views from, if you have a podcast listens, could be anything really. And, trying to look at the thing that you're proud of and things that you're saying, actually this has been really growing very well, and try to see if it's going to help you grow more, and then actually tap into that. So that concludes my question coming from my mastermind on how to stay motivated this year. And now it's time for one of your questions.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I live in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And my question for Sarah is, what if you work together with someone who doesn't take his job as serious as you do? Try to enthuse and convince this colleague, or is that counterproductive? And do you just need to accept that this is the situation and you're just unlucky? I hope you have some advice for me. Thanks.
That's a great question coming in from Melanie, and I think it's so great that she's one of the first to submit her question. So yay for her. And you can also submit your question through bureausbb.com/podcast. Anyway, so there's two things I'm hearing in Melanie's question. There is, the first part, convincing your colleague to do better, and the second part is, just unlucky. But I believe there's a third option as well. So I want to ask you if you've asked this person the reason why they are the way they are in this job and what are their desires. So maybe there's some things they really like doing, and maybe you can both find a common ground. Maybe there's things that person is doing that you would actually like to do, but you can't because of your job description. And maybe it's also the other way around, so you can swap, or maybe there's another colleague who can be in your cahoots. So when I was an interim manager, I would always have one-on-one conversations with the people in my team about this. What do you really want? What is something that you really like, even though you think it's not possible right now? And what I didn't know back then was that it's very much about energy, the universe, and letting things flow. But actually, that's really what I wanted. I wanted people to be happy. And I think, if you are talking about this, if you're thinking about this, then you're probably also you're also desiring your colleague, your coworker to be happy as well. So that's the first question you can ask. And then I want to ask you a question is, when to you is this person doing the right job according to you? So what kind of things do they have to do to convince you that they're doing a great job? So write this down for yourself. And this can, be a little bit, you can find this a little bit ridiculous maybe to do this, but actually this is also very much about clarity, which I spoke about before. And maybe there's something that you're not doing great right now, and maybe there's something that you can help them with. And these are all things that you can ask them. And, a method on how to ask this is, I have to look back, is you can find it in episode 43 on how to give and receive feedback. Because, really, I think it's very much about having an open conversation about this. And maybe this person is something whom you believe is not very much into changing, because maybe they're at the end of their career, they've seen it all, they don't want to, they don't want to do anything different anymore because, they don't believe in that anymore. Then maybe just try to not focus too much on that colleague who isn't very motivated anymore, but focus on colleagues who are, and, try to really connect with them. maybe create some new ideas with them, and always leave the door open for, the unmotivated colleague, leave the door open for them to join. But it's really their choice as well. Sometimes it's just, you can't really change someone's entire life and, viewpoints in their life. But I believe you can really inspire others and help others by taking a little bit that step back, asking the question, also asking the question to yourself, what would be something that would be perfect, and also reflect on yourself. Maybe the person doesn't like something about you. And I'm not saying you are doing a bad job, but it could be, just, having that open conversation about that. So, without judging each other also. So listen back to episode 43 and enjoy making it happen, Melanie, and please report back to me. Now I have a question for you. My question for you for today and this week is, what is your word of the year? So a word of the year is a really strong tool that you can go back to. And I a little bit talked about it as well, about the clarity, about finding the motivation. So it's all a little bit the same theme today. But how to create that, why is it important? So for instance, if you are hitting a rough patch in your business, or maybe you're 1 week completely unmotivated, you don't know what you're doing anymore, then that word can actually really help you to regain your focus, to focus on what's important for you and focus on, what you desire actually. So how to get there, how to create that word of the year, because maybe you're just thinking, being happy, or maybe you're thinking comfortable, or maybe you're thinking money. I don't know. But I'm here to help you to get to that first, to that word of the year. So first, I'd like to ask you what your intentions or goals are for this year. So are they financial goals? Are they a certain number of clients? Are they maybe a state of being? And for this, you can listen to episode 48, about the goal setting that I talked about previously, and you can write this down for yourself. So what are your goals typically? And then once you've written it down, or if you're looking at your journal, when you did the exercise last week or 2 weeks before, I want you to write down for yourself what kind of feelings or results you will gain from this. So I want you to kind of fast forward to December 2023. If you're listening to to this in a later moment, maybe you're listening to this in 2026. I don't know. I have no idea. Hello, future. If you're thinking about this a year from now, so let's say December 2023, what is, and if you've actually met all those goals, what is going to be your feeling? What is going to be the result? And jot down all those words that come to mind. So maybe you're happy. Maybe you're feeling free. Maybe you're feeling confident. Maybe you're finally feeling appreciated. Maybe you are a captain of industry and everybody wants to work with you. Maybe you're very busy. Maybe you're actually not busy anymore because you've delegated everything. You have a scalable passive income. I don't know. Just write it down for yourself. And then the third part is to, look at the words that appeared on your journal and choose one of those words, or find a word that summarize the results that you are going to desire. So that is going to be your word of the year. Try to feel the energy in the words so that you're thinking about it and you're thinking, yes, let's do this. So, for instance, a word like boundaries has a little bit of a negative connotation. So I would probably suggest something like confidence or another empowering word. So that's your word of the year. I'm very curious. Please do share it with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can find me everywhere. Don't worry. I will write it down in the show notes where you can find me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Big Business with Sarah. If you've enjoyed today's episode, leave a 5-star review and hit subscribe. If you're ready for your next step in business, you can find out how to work with me in the show notes. Do not forget to submit your coaching question for one of my next episodes. Have a happy day.